Hey, all you cool cat and kittens. This is another episode of Klask Pro.
Yeah. No fear. Yeah.
All right, here again. This is David Bowie
Chris Teacup Clinton.
and another exciting episode of Klask Pro. It's been a little bit since we've been out, and I think that we'll go into a little bit of what we've been experiencing so far. Fortunately, we live in the same state, so experiences might be similar, but you're in the heavier. Actually, you might be part of Ground Zero. Um, yeah, we'll get into that. Chris, why don't you start us off by talking a little bit about the hot topics of the day?
Yeah. First of all, great job on the introduction. I didn't think you were going to do it, but you did it. So that's a great intro. Yeah, kind of with what you were saying there. Obviously, we're talking about the coronavirus and how it's affected literally the whole world to some extent or another. And part of that ground zero part is, we're, Washington State. It's kind of where it started in the U.S. and kind of grew pretty quickly. Fortunately, I'm a little bit further out from the Seattle type area where it happened or really kind of blew up. Kind of in my county, there's only been a couple confirmed cases opposed to 1,000, so that's good. In that kind of way. But yeah, so mostly kind of again with what you were saying, we've been gone for roughly a month, and I think a lot of that is related to the coronavirus. I know a lot of people are home right now and are actually putting out more content where you and I have been dealing with different matters, dealing with lifestyle changes as far as work goes and personal lives go. So it's kind of taken us away from getting this class content out to everybody, but we're trying to get back on the train. And also on top of that, right before, like a week before the coronavirus stuff started to really take hold in the US, I was actually dealing with a pretty big personal matter on my end. I was in Portland, Oregon, and someone actually smashed the back window of my car and stole a great deal of personal effects of mine, including all of my Klask stuff, my daily Klask stuff. This included a brand new board and my really, really nice backpack that I keep my board and all of my effects in, including the really awesome barriers that I had gifted to me, the Klask barriers, which have been great for playing in like crowded spaces or pubs. So all of that was stolen, including my notebook where I keep all of our show notes and future episodes for Klask Pro. All of that was stolen. It's been incredibly difficult to deal with. I've been incredibly lucky as far as connections with friends and family has been on trying to get me back on my feet in that regards. Have a new Klask board. You, Bowie, actually hooked me up, got me a whole set of new biscuits, which has been incredible. It's so funny how important the biscuits are.
Yeah.
when you only have 3 or 4 of them, it can get very frustrating for someone who plays all the time. So thank you again, Bowie, for hooking me up with that. It was actually immensely helpful on getting me back on my Klask feet, if you will. So yeah, that's kind of the hot topics for recent events.
Yeah, well, I don't think people realize that the last episode we talked about doing our $100 match, and you were originally coming down to Portland
Mm-hmm.
to play in a tournament that another pub had put on, and you made plans and, got tickets to a concert and got a hotel booked. The class tournament ended up getting canceled or rescheduled, which will get rescheduled again because we're still on shutdown. But yeah, you came down still to do the concert and go to the hotel. And it all stemmed from a class tournament that ended up not happening.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucked that you didn't even really get to play Klask. and you went through
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah. It's crazy you mentioned that. I didn't even really put those pieces of the puzzle together that I was there originally for a class tournament that, like you just said, I didn't even get to play in because it didn't occur. Um, which, again, I think that's a Way Days Brewing, is the
Right.
pub in Portland that was putting that on. They were excellent with their communication as to letting everyone know, hey, that we had to move the tournament. So it was really unfortunate it got moved. It hurt me mostly, I think, out of everyone, just because I did book a hotel to stay up there and um, all of that. But they were great on the communication. They did reschedule it, so shout out to them. I do appreciate their efforts, and I can't wait until we get to some level of normalcy and that tournament can be rescheduled and we can get some really great competitive Klask play back in the world. Um, yeah, man, it was a bummer. I'm glad I went to Portland still. I ended up keeping my hotel room for that tournament because I was like, hey, it's Portland. I'm going to have fun. There was a concert scheduled that I ended up going to as well. So it wasn't a loss of a weekend, but no competitive Klask was a bummer.
Yeah, it stinks. Um,
For sure.
but I think that went from a cruddy day to now millions of people having even worse days.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is everything happened so quickly with the spread of the coronavirus and how it has negatively affected um, nearly everyone that it's kind of a kind of a weird silver lining that I didn't get to drown in my own sorrows for very long, um, because you know my stuff was stolen. I had to bring my car in to get the glass repair, dealing with insurance and police, and I'm drowning in my own sadness essentially with the whole situation, trying to deal with recouping, and then all of a sudden this spread of the virus came out, and then my mind went away from the sadness of my personal situation and was able to be kind of changed, morphed into a appreciation for what I do have, and then also focused on talking to different friends that I have through social media outlets and such, and just tried to offer my help where I could. I am fortunate enough to where a few friends that needed help, I was able to send them, different various things that they might need. In fact, here in just a few days, I'll be sending a class board to a family that had posted on Facebook that they've just been crazy bored and needed recommendations for things to do. And I was like, hey, get Klask. And they mentioned something about, oh, well, we're so scared about funds and what to do. And I was like, you know what, just I'll bring you one. So it is nice to be able to refocus on what I can do to help people, instead of losing my mind in my own issues that had happened with my car. So, and again, I have to take the moment. If you're the person who stole my stuff in Portland, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you play that Klask game. If you still have it, I hope you didn't throw it away, but I hope you play. And I really do want you to enjoy it. And heck, if you get good, maybe we'll meet one day and play, and I'll show you what's up at the board. So maybe. Who knows?
Wouldn't that be an awesome epic match, right? Where like you get
Crazy
into
bad.
like this finals, like national championship. There's this other guy or gal there that ends up meeting you at the finals, and right before you guys start and do the handshake, or right at the handshake, there's like, I'm the one that stole your board. Like
I
let's just like mess up your mind right before your match.
Oh, it would mess me up so bad. So bad. But it would give me this intense anger that maybe will help me win. Who knows?
If you and I are at the finals match in the U.S. Championship, that would even mess you up more if I'm like, I'm the one that stole the board.
I was just thinking like
It
now
was me.
someone is going to say it to me.
It was all me. I think it's important. I know that this is a show about Klask and
Mhm.
strategies and just having a talk, but right now we're in a crisis across the world, and it's important for us to pause and spend a moment just to have a conversation about it. I also think that it's a good outlet for us, and then also for all the people who play Klask and listen to us, to maybe get some thoughts on what we're experiencing as well during this time, from the beginning of the timeline where, you can tell me your side of it, and when you kind of knew things were going to get bad. I'll tell you my experience. It was it was early in March, and I went to Costco on my lunch because I was starting to hear people were like going grocery shopping and just gathering up a lot of stuff. So I'm thinking in my head, I've gone to Costco many times on my lunch because I work right next to it. And when I went there was a line that was like 2 hours long for checkout. And right when I walked in, I was like, there's no carts available. Like there were no carts at all. And this is like early March. So I was just like, oh my gosh, like something's happening. Like something is really happening. I'm out here at like 10:30 at Costco, and there's a 2 hour wait to check out. Zero toilet paper. And the moment when I saw that there was zero toilet paper, I was like, okay, like something's going on. Um, I really need to start taking something serious, because the issue with a lot of the stuff that's going on in the stock market is it's like sentiment driven, right? It's based off of feelings, fear. It starts driving everything down. And then when we have issues with paper towels and toilet paper and sanitizer wipes being completely out, it's based off of people who are fearing what's going to happen. And then so you have individuals who are, I don't want to say hoarding. I want to say that they're overly preparing. Okay, let's just say they're overly preparing, and while they may be set for many years, it's leaving a lot of people behind, not being able to have TP or have sanitizing wipes that would normally last them a couple months. So that's my experience, and when I was like, something is happening. I probably need to jump on the bandwagon to make sure that I at least have a supply that will last me for a couple months. And it was quite difficult to find. When you start going to Amazon, you're finding like there's like
Mhm.
no toilet paper, there's none in the stores, they're completely wiped out. I got a little smart um, with my situation, because I was like, okay, what do I need to do to get toilet paper for my family during this time where it might be like some hot commodity? I don't know. This was early March. I mean, consider that we're in the first week of April now,
Yep.
and it's crazy how short time frame it's been. It feels really long. I went the commercial route, so I went online, ordered, those like big toilet paper rolls that you see in like restaurants that are
Oh, yeah.
like nobody was buying those, because
Hmm.
it just doesn't fit on your toilet roll.
Of
In,
course
in
not. No.
in my mind, I'm just like, look, if it comes to the point where I don't have nothing to wipe my butt, I'm okay with using a commercial toilet paper roll that just doesn't fit on the holder.
Good move. Yeah.
So, yeah, so I ordered like 2 boxes of those. And I was like, I'm set. I'm completely fine with using that if it came to it. And it's still, I mean, we're a month into this now, at least in our area, and
Hmm.
toilet paper is still hard to find. It's there, but it's like a right timing thing right now. Um, so what about you? I mean, when was it that you were like, oh crap, like something is going on?
Well, I got really lucky. If just to go off the TP conversation there, I got really lucky that we were planning to have a party at my house for my wife's birthday, um, which we always invite a great deal of people over. So, and I was already low on TP. This is also probably really late April, early March, like right, or, not April. We're in April now.
Late February.
But yeah, late February, um, early March area. It was, I can't remember. It was probably actually that very first weekend in March, um, if I'm recalling correctly. But anyway, I had this pretty big party planned for my wife's upcoming birthday. We were already low on TP, and I was like, I'm gonna get some. And that's also when all of the social media stuff was coming out saying, hey, it's might be a shortage, or some places like Walmart are already saying they're out. And I'm like, well, we need a lot of it. So again, this is before any stay-at-home orders, before social distancing orders were put into place, because we were still anticipating this party. And I'm like, well, I can't not have this stuff, available for people when they come over. So I actually Amazoned a huge box, because I was like, well, the party, and then if people are running out, I'll have even more. And this is before Prime kind of shut down. I got it in 2 days, this massive box of rolls, um, which now looks like I'm hoarding it, but I didn't mean to. I was buying it in preparation to have for guests and everything. And yeah, it worked out. I have plenty. It's really, really crazy and unfortunate that some people are hoarding these just insane stockpiles. Um, I really feel bad, especially for like baby wipes and stuff. I heard are also hard to find. I'm not in a position of needing them, but for those who are, those are the ones that really bug me. Is because like you can't, that's even harder in my mind to replace. Especially if you young babies or what have you. But yeah. Anyway, I heard, hey, there's one case in Washington confirmed, first U.S. case. And I'm like, okay, that's, they're traveling, I'm sure, like whatever. And then it just kept going and going and going up. And I'm like, this is getting crazy. Work starting to talk about it. I'm a safety manager at my company. And one of the, every week I have to talk about different safety topics with our teams. And I'm sitting there preparing safety topics, and literally everything gets changed. Like, hey, we got to talk about the flu and prevention and this virus. And I'm like, whoa, okay, let's do that. All this stuff just started to change. And I will be completely honest, and I feel very bad about it up front, but I did not take it very seriously for quite a while, probably 2+ weeks into March. Um, I was kind of one of those people saying, like, it can't affect me. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, people like Italy are taking it too seriously. Obviously, I regret saying all of that or thinking all of that. At the time, I felt like it was the right thought. But looking back at it, especially from the position we're in now as a whole entire civilization, not even just as Americans, but as a whole people of the world, is like completely opened my eyes, completely made me understand I took a misstep on my thought process there. It's a very serious thing. I think it's going to continue to be a serious problem. And I just hope everyone can, really do what they're supposed to do with preventing it from spreading. And one of the things about that is I know a lot of people, like I think you, Bowie, said you're working from home now. My company actually is still operating at essentially full capacity. So I'm still making my daily trip to the office and working with our teams there. And that may change in the next week or so, but that's how it's affecting me so far. So not too intensely. No guests allowed over at the house, which for me is rough because I always have people come over and hang out or play games, especially Klask, and that's not happening. No pubs, no playing Klask out at the pubs, which that does allow me to segue real quick. So, very serious topic to segue away from, but I will bring it into what's in our cup because we haven't got there yet. And I'm very curious to what you have, Bowie, because it's always good. I would like to shout out one of my favorite places of all time, Matchless Brewery. This cup is not going to read well because the way it's designed, but it says Matchless right here. One of my all-time favorite breweries. They're right across the street from my office, so I usually go there like 3 to 4 times a week right after work. Play Klask a lot there. Obviously, they're shut down. I think they're doing pickups for drinks, but that's what I have today. It's just a porter. So I thought I'd shout that out. What do you got going on today, Bowie?
Um, as you can see, it's almost gone, so I'm gonna have to refill here in a quick minute. But there was probably a good 4 shots in here. Maker's Mark cast strength. So here's another quick side note about bourbon liquor or whatever. Whenever you see barrel proof or cast strength, that just means that it was a straight pour from the barrel. So it's not watered down or like distilled in a certain way where it matches like 40%, 45% from what you might be used to in a typical liquor. So that means that when it's a straight pour from the barrel, it's a lot heavier in alcohol percentage. So you're talking about something like 67% alcohol versus a typical 40-45%. But it's usually whenever you see cast strength, it's the good stuff. It's a lot better. It's a lot more flavor. It's an acquired taste. It takes time to work up to it. But it is also more bang for the buck. So if you think about it, right, you have something that's really good, 67% alcohol. It might be too much for you. It might be what some people would say hot, right? It's very hot. So you can water it down, which means that you get more liquor for what you're paying for.
Yeah, good move. So how long into this episode should we expect for you to slur your words?
Dude, I know one of the other episodes that we shot in, I'll learn some words by the end of it. So yeah, it's quarantine time, man. Everybody's drinking.
Yeah,
Saturday too.
Yeah, definitely one of the things that have stayed consistent. I think. And so anyway, everyone listening, thank you so much for listening and taking your time out of your day. Even if you are quarantined at home and have all the time in the world, it feels like we do appreciate you taking the time to choose us to fill some of that time. We hope if you are an active Klask player that you've been able to practice at home, whether that's with family members or just practicing with yourself on techniques. So we do appreciate that and hope you enjoy the episode. And if you haven't done so, please like our video, share the video with all your friends, especially ones who play Klask, and subscribe if you haven't. It does help us immensely with the growth of what we're doing, so we appreciate it in advance. Also, follow us on social media. We have been silent there as well over the last month, but we will get that going now that the normalcies of life, if you will, during the coronavirus have become a little bit more stable, even though the future is incredibly unknown for us right now. We at least feel we can get back to scheduling stuff. So hopefully we'll continue this train. Right now, there's not a lot of new content or new events to talk about because there's just none happening for obvious reasons, which specifically is sad for us because April is typically when the road to the World Championships begin. I was expecting, after talking to some people and the powers that be of Klask, I was expecting announcements to be made late March, early April for the dates for the road. The road to the U.S. Championships. And obviously those announcements have not been made because all of the venues and dates, I'm sure, are now being changed and altered and moved. I hope to goodness not canceled, but at this point, who knows? I was expecting the first matches or the first tournaments for the U.S. Championship to take place, or sorry, the road to the U.S. Championship, the regionals. I was expecting those matches to start as early as this month of April, and take place until essentially August when the U.S. Championship would happen. So the fact that um, the fact that we're obviously looking at that not happening, or at least not yet, is one of the additional sad tragedies of where we are with this virus in the world that we've had to um, kind of transition to in order to decrease the spread of this corona. So it's sad. I was hoping, especially in these April episodes, to be talking about the road to the U.S. Championship and do some updates on it and who's the players going to be, who to expect in the U.S. Championship, and we can talk about that stuff, but it just won't be as as exciting as talking about it one week and then seeing what happens the next week. So, um, you know, it's sad. It's unfortunate. There's no way around it. As Klask players, it hurts, but we'll obviously see the other side of this, and maybe Klask will grow out of it, because I'm sure there are some people who are going to experience Klask for the first time because they're at home looking for things to do, maybe even two-player games to play, and I'm sure Klask will be one they consider. And on top of that, in fact, with that said, I know it's happened because on like Twitter and stuff, Twitter and Instagram, people have said, hey, check out this new game that we found in our stay-at-home order and play it with my son or daughter or whatever. Look, it's so fun. And I think that will occur many more times through our quarantine, and hopefully that helps grow Klask. And also, I hope it gives some players who have been thinking about becoming competitive players the opportunity to take that more seriously by being at home and saying, ooh, if I hit the ball at this angle every time at this speed, I get this great shot. Or, if I do this maneuver, I might build my defense. Also gives them an opportunity to decide, are they going to become maybe they use all these consecutive games at home playing more than usual to decide, I'm an offensive or I'm a defensive style player, which is great to bring up because it's exactly what this episode is about. This is episode 6, and we're talking about play style, which, the two biggest play styles is, are you an offensive or a defensive player? So that's this episode. I think it's going to be a good one. And I think
Yeah.
and you, we have wanted to talk about for a while, right?
Yeah, for me, I obviously love what we do. And some of the stuff that we talk about, like the operations, logistics of Klask and stuff, it's cool. But for me, I'm all about the play, strategies. I mean, like if we could, like I would probably be fine with just talking about the Klask board and analyzing the angles and different strategies and tricks and all that stuff for every single episode. And in my hope is that we start gearing towards that as we get through, certain and different topics where we're providing value and credibility to some of the world champions that play today.
Mm-hmm.
I think internally for us, sometimes it's difficult to have discussions and topics about this type of stuff when we haven't yet made it to the world championship.
Mm-hmm.
Are we good enough to? Yeah, absolutely. We play very well. Our time will come, and I have no doubt about that. But what my wishes are and hopes is that we do provide value for some, for 95% of the players out there. Yeah, we're going to provide value for them. But my wishes and wants are that for the other top 5% of the players out there, we're going to be able to provide value in certain ways or maybe different viewpoints that maybe they didn't think about, that we may have brought up. So,
Yeah, no, really well said. Really well said, and right on topic as far as the importance of these kind of conversations. I'm glad you brought up the ever or the everlasting topic of, hey, who are these chumps talking about play style or strategy when they haven't even made it to the world championship, let alone win a world championship. And I hope everyone as competitive Klask players understands and knows, just because we haven't been to a world championship or played and won the world championship is not a reflection to whether or not we have anything to add value to your play style. And I mean, it shows over and over that Klask at the competitive level is really intense. I mean, you can beat someone 30 times in a row, and then you can get in front of the cameras, in front of the crowd, and then that same person that you beat 30 in a row can come out with just great shots, great serves, impeccable defense, and nothing you're doing feels like it's going to work. And all of a sudden you've lost the one match out of 31 that matters. That happens over and over and over again, and it will continue to happen. That's part of the nature of Klask. It's a very difficult game to be very consistent at winning at a high level. Yeah, you can literally be considered the most talented player in Klask. Like, oh, I'm the greatest at these trick shots. I have the best defense, whatever, whatever, whatever. It does not mean you will always win, because in Klask, the competition is pretty fierce, especially at the top tier levels. And eventually, whether it's you just have a weird feeling about you, or you're having a bad day, you drank too much coffee, you didn't drink enough coffee, who knows what the reason is. Someone, even someone who you beat consistently, can beat you. And I think that's a trend that will continue to happen. Just recently, in the world champion of 2019, Tomac, played um, uh, Ballin of the Italian Class Club, Class Italia, and played him at Essen, I believe it was. Pretty sure it was Essen, just a few months after the World Championship, and Ballin beat him. So you have who would be considered the best player of 2019, Tomac, because he won the World Championship, playing Ballin, who I think lost in the semifinals. So he's obviously very good. He made it very far in the tournament. But you're thinking, oh, on paper, Tomac should win. He's the better player. He's won the tournament, whatever, right? But then you see these two go to head to head. Tomac's probably sitting there going, I'm the best, I'm the world championship, and then Ballin comes out and beats him. In a really great match, by the way. It is available on YouTube under the at Klask Game channel. So if you have a chance to go watch it, I highly recommend it. It's a great match between those two stellar opponents. And that's the thing, is it's hard for me to say, hey, I can beat Tomac. I've never played him. I don't know, but I've watched a lot of his matches. I know my skill level, and I think if I don't beat him, I give him a scare at least. So who knows? So hopefully everyone understands that watching, and can take what we say with some form of appreciation and confidence that we're not speaking out of some like novice level of skill, right? So that was it. Sorry, I got on my soapbox on that one, didn't I?
Nah, you know what? It's quarantine time, man. We can do whatever we want. It's our show.
I'm definitely a fan of that sentence there. Well said. So anyway, so here in this episode 6, play styles, we're going to talk about I want to say like 3 very specific play styles. You've kind of already mentioned them. That's going to be an offensive play style, defensive play style, and then a game planner strategy type style. Also could be related to like a hybrid play style, if you will. But I want to talk about those 3 things, break them down with you, Bowie, and see if especially if you're watching, leave some comments below with your thoughts on some of these play styles too. Well, tell us what kind of play style you prefer to play, and we'll wrap it up with what I think the most important play style is at the end. But that's a secret for the end. So you got to watch through and or skip all the way to that if you want. And so let's start aggressive. Let's start offensive. Um, I think offensive play styles are great. They're definitely intense. For someone who is all offense, I mean, they just bombard that ball, and they throw biscuits like crazy. It can be intense, especially if you haven't played at a competitive level and you're defending against someone who plays that style. It can be overwhelming. They just attack. Uh, you know, we should tell people what kind of play styles we play, but I think we should wait till the end to tell people. What are your thoughts? Should we tell them now or tell them later?
I think they're gonna figure out what type of play style we have during this conversation.
Okay, even better, even better. So, yeah, so offensive. I mean, I kind of think of offensive in two very specific ways. I think about it in someone who's all about ball control and accuracy with the ball, so they're very goal oriented. And then I also think offensive players as biscuit dogs. You know, they attack the biscuits, they throw them, they sling them. They want you to hit them back at them so they can have control of the biscuit to fling it back at you. That's kind of what I think offensive. Do you have any additional, additional definitions for what you would consider offensive?
Yeah. Let's just call it offensive slash aggressive. To me, it's all about control. It doesn't matter if you have the ball or the other person has the ball. As long as you control the game, then you are an extremely aggressive player. I'll talk more about my feelings on the all aggressive or all defensive positions, but yeah, if you're leaning towards the aggressive play, you're all about control. Whether you have the ball and all you care about is possession, right? Fast hits, more hits, numbers game.
Yep.
Even if the other person has the ball, you're flicking biscuits to control the game. It doesn't matter. All it matters is really two words: control and possession. That's aggressive.
Yep. Ooh, perfect. Yeah. I honestly think this is something that's crossed my mind several times. I think when Klask grows into a much larger scale operation as far as community goes, as far as competitive players, just common players, and then fans of the game, whether that be fans of people who play or the game itself. I think as all of that grows, I think you're going to see an increase of stats and data, specifically, like you mentioned, the numbers game. I think the numbers game is going to play a pretty big role in determining things like, let's say, a betting line. Like if Klask gets into the realm of sports betting, right? I think the numbers game is going to play a huge role in that. And for instance, what you were saying with the aggressive offensive attack or play style, the more you possess that ball, the more hits you take off of that ball, and the less you allow your opponent to take, the numbers, I think, would reflect you're likely to end up with that point. If you're a good player, if you're really bad player and you're just hitting it all crazy and score on yourself, obviously, that's not what we're talking about here. But if you're a really well-versed player and you know how to control that ball and you're taking a lot of hits and you're manipulating the position of that ball while your opponent is obviously in a defensive position, I feel the numbers would show that that player is more likely to get that point when you have a strong offensive possession like that. So, of course, we haven't had enough games broken down yet to get that stat to be solidified, but that's certainly how I feel inside about it.
Yeah. And I think this is a great segue into the next player that you have on the list, which is a defensive player.
Yep.
This is going to be a bold statement, but a defensive player is probably going to be trash, right? Show me a world champion defensive player It doesn't exist. That's ridiculous. A defensive player is a newbie that's trying not to get scored on. So I don't think that the defensive player is a real thing. The defensive player is a really bad player that you're playing against because they're scared that they're either going to go into the goal or they're going to get shot on and they're going to score. So I don't think that exists. There's no such thing as a defensive player. You're going to have defensive strategies as a player, yeah, but an all defensive player, I don't think that exists. There's nobody out there in the World Championship that is all defense and scores on people.
It's funny. Sorry, I kind of lost it there for a minute because you were so bold on that statement. And even though I lost it a little bit, I do tend to agree. You're right. We have not seen a very successful competitive player who is primarily defensive, meaning they are focused on protecting their goal above anything else. They don't focus on possession. They don't focus on angle attacks. They quite literally are focused on just protecting their goal and avoiding biscuits in order to eventually get a almost lucky hit. I mean, I'm sure skill is there for those defensive type players, but they're not focused on getting that perfect hit. They're just focused on basically returning that ball towards the goal when able to, as long as it doesn't alter their defensive maneuvers. And I do agree. You kind of said it in there. I agree that any successful player is going to have defensive strategies. You have to, especially when your opponent goes on an attack. Until you can repossess that ball, you have to have defensive maneuvers in place in order to outlast the onslaught of ball hits or biscuit hits, whatever it may be. So that's true. I don't think there is a full-on defensive player, someone who does that, like, let's say they serve the ball and then instantly go into defensive mode. I don't think anyone's played that way specifically. So I think you're onto something with saying that not only does it not only is it unlikely to exist, but yeah, they're probably not a good player. They're someone who certainly would be, I think an all defensive player would be someone who is certainly not very confident in their skill set of hitting biscuits or getting shots off that ball, whether they be straight shots or angle shots or what have you. But I think the defensive player is someone who's definitely going to protect their goal above anything else. And I think over anything with biscuits, they're going to avoid them. They likely won't try to hit them away or do anything of the nature. I think they're just going to try to avoid them. And then I think the one thing an all defensive player could get away with is if they're playing a very, very aggressive player. And the reason I say that is because I've seen and I've even kind of adopted this tactic depending on who I'm playing, is when I'm playing someone, whether it's the whole match or just a point during the match, if they're playing incredibly aggressive, I will go essentially 100% defensive in hopes, and almost not even hopes, but my expectation is that player's playing so aggressive, they're likely to make a mistake in their own right that will result in a point for me, whether that's them clasking or they're hitting the biscuit so much they increase their opportunities of taking the biscuit themselves. And so if you are all defensive in those situations, you might end up getting the point just based on your opponent making a pretty critical mistake. I did try that during our club versus club match against Tay, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. It's been a minute since I said his name, so that was scary. But Tay, I went almost all defensive against him because he was so aggressive. I'm like, he's going to score on himself all day. The whole day he's going to score on himself. I just have to sit back and wait. I tried that and lost. So obviously my strategy was not smart.
That's
how I feel going into it.
And I'll add a little segment into that. I think my strategy for an all aggressive player is opposite of what you're talking about, which is if you're gonna go all aggressive, right? Biscuits, all ball hits, frontline defense, crazy fast, uncontrollable hits. I'm gonna go even faster, more
Mm-hmm.
aggressive, more aggressive defense. When I say more aggressive defense, we're gonna talk about this way later. I'm going to put out a video about different defense and offensive strategies, but um, I'm literally circling the board on my defense, like the entire, like my striker is just going in a circle because the only way for me to throw off extremely, and this is extreme, right? I'm not talking about, kind of aggressive. An extremely aggressive good player is to be more aggressive than they are. Because the fact is that if you can defend well to an aggressive player, but play more aggressive than they are, then in my opinion, you're going to end up beating them. And this is going to be on, obviously a match that you played 2 out of the 3 rounds. You can't really use those results as a test, but I can tell you from my play with the individual that you're talking about versus what you, that's what works, right? For that individual, which is to go overly aggressive, more aggressive than they are, so that the fact is that the aggressive player is either going to score in themselves, or you're just going to be so uncontrollably aggressive that they can't follow it, and then you just have to make sure you're not scoring on yourself.
Yeah, cool. I'm, tip of the hat to you. Then I never thought about it, and it's something I'll probably adopt going forward. Just to see, um, obviously because like the match I mentioned, I went fully defensive, and I did get several points being defensive, where
That's
he
because
did
you're
score on
that's because
himself.
you're good though. I mean,
Right.
that's yeah.
But
And
the
you're
main
I
thing
don't
is though, is even if I get 4 points because my opponent made a mistake, if they still get 6 points because of what
doesn't
they're
matter.
doing works, it doesn't matter. Even if I get 5 points, it doesn't matter if they get six. So your strategy only works if you get six before your opponent, right? So I like your kind of game plan on being even more aggressive. Um, it's a play style that I will be completely transparent about. I don't do very often because every time I get too aggressive, I seem to like lose control and give my striker to my opponent or something. So it's something I need to practice more, especially if I'm going to try to adopt that play style. So that is a good little insider tip as far as everyone watching can kind of take into their own game style or play style. Um, so here's one that we'll segue on offense, defense. I want to segue into one that people, as far as I know, have not discussed yet because it's only been mentioned, I think, one time. The commentators of the 2009 World Championship mentioned it for about 2 seconds and then moved on. And it's really unfortunate because if they had dug deeper on what they had mentioned, it would have been a very good um, little bit of um, interest into kind of peeling back the layers of a competitive player, and that is a game planner, someone who, almost like other sports, walked to the table with an idea of what they're going to try to do and win. Now, obviously, in Klask, it's incredibly fast paced. When you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be, you know, um, really, really intense on the right wall going into this match, but then it's 4-0 because the right wall isn't working for you. You have to change it on literally, I think more than any other sport, you have to change your play style consistently throughout the matches, right? Um, but I think there is some players who go in knowing I'm going to try this during this match against this player, and they use tactics like this they plan for their opponent, so to speak. If they have watched them or know them, they're like, oh, I know, for instance, let's just say I know Bowie doesn't like biscuits, so I'm going to go to this match and I'm going to play biscuits more than I usually do. Like they're actually game planning for the upcoming match opposed to just let's get at the table and see what happens and play it out how it feels. I think they I think game planners use mixed play styles more than anyone else. I think they're very much type of players who play based on what's happening. Like, they're being aggressive. I'm going to try to, stand back and wait for them to make mistakes, or I'm going to be, really aggressive back towards them, like you just stated, things like that. So, um, do you think game planners are prominent players in Klask, or is that just something I have in my own head? I mean, yeah, I haven't really talked to anyone about it, so
Yeah.
you get to be my test subject, so to speak.
You gave me two options. You gave me either I think it exists or it's in your own head. If I had to pick one,
There's no other options.
yeah, there's no other options. So you gave me two options. So I'm going to answer based off of those two options. I would say it's in your own head.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. The fact that you're saying that somebody comes in and is game planning off of that individual could potentially win that match is only based off of the fact that they're game planning the opposite strategy that they've already trained on.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, I'll give you an example. I always have the same serve almost every time. The only reason why I will serve differently is because there's a biscuit in that corner.
Mm.
Let's just say an individual, and I have some background information that they are not very good on serves on the other side that I usually serve. I will still not do that because that's not how I train.
Yep. Cool.
So that's like saying that you have a fighter who is going into the ring and they are going to switch up their strategy because that's how the other person might have some areas that they are an opportunity to strike on or kick on or whatever, and is a weakness of theirs, and they're all of a sudden switching their strategy. For me, it's your game. It's either your game is better than the other person or it's not. If you're training in a certain way to be able to beat the other person, then yeah, that's because that's your game. That you're training, that's how you play. But the fact is that if all of a sudden you're in the middle of a gameplay and you're a game planner, or in quotes, a game planner, and you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm all of a sudden going to switch my serve because I think that I'm going to go ahead and make this goal because it doesn't seem like they're going to hit it. I just think that's a mistake. I think that most of the world champions that play in any of the tournaments, they have been playing the way that they've been playing for a long time. They just stick to that game. Either you're going to win or you're not. But that's how you play. That's your game, and that's it. Get somebody on the show that says like they all of a sudden switched their game up and it was not how they play and they won on a serious tournament, then I will retract my statement. But I almost guarantee you that every single person that's played in a serious game says screw that shot that might get them. I'm playing my game, and if I win, I win. If I don't, then I lose. Because that's how you play. When it comes to game time, right? It's like fight or flight. It's either you're gonna fold or you're gonna fight. And at that point, I would say for you and for myself and for most people, however they play, however they train, that's how they're going to play. They're not going to game plan and switch it up. If they're saying that like they're going to play, let's just say I might meet my match, Chris Teacup in the finals, and I know that for some reason I've studied his videos, his many videos that are out there, which doesn't exist because nobody has tons of videos out there. Here's an example. Last time we played, it was one of the matches. I told you months before that like straight shots were like not my thing, right? Like they always got me like, so yeah. So the regional tournament that I beat you at that tournament to go into the U.S. Championship, I was just like, there's this girl that was just throwing these straight shots and it was getting me. I shouldn't have, like, those shots should not gone in. And then you utilize that information to try to beat me on a future match, and it didn't work out for you.
Yeah. My straight shots are not as good as hers.
Well, here's the thing is that you're taking past history and assuming that individual has not adjusted their game.
Yeah,
right? Like
absolutely.
you're taking a
And
weakness of a game and then not expecting that they're getting better at it. So like you're taking information that is in the past and watching videos of people that are in the past, not expecting that they're getting better and have fixed the game. So the position that you're putting yourself into is adjusting your game that's not
mhm.
your game to a game that doesn't exist when you actually play the person.
Yeah, it's so 1,000% agree, because I was actually planning to use this example when you were talking, because I was like, he's hitting the nail on the head. Everything he's saying is so true. And I was going to use the example you brought up before I had a chance to. And it is exactly the straight shot. I remember you telling me about the straight shot, and I tried it, and I probably missed a lot of point opportunities by hitting balls that I in a direction that I wouldn't necessarily hit them usually. They weren't comfortable for me. But I forced them thinking, well, if it does work, he can't block it, right? Straight shots are ridiculous to try to hit in any match. So when you do them, it should be because it's like the only option left, right? I was doing it because I felt like it was the option that would work when I should not have been doing it. And it actually happened when you and I played last time at the Mount Olympus Brewery tournament or event. Um, I went into it knowing like, straight shots, but then I was like, no, he can defend those pretty well now. So I actually used a shot that I had been practicing myself, regardless for who it was against. I had just been practicing knowing this is a shot I want to be really good at. And you even mentioned at some point during that day that holy, this shot keeps hurting me, and that's the left wall bank off the back wall.
Yeah.
It's a brutal shot, especially when you've never seen practiced it or defended it that much. Um, and it's a great point, because I was doing that shot not because I was like, oh, this is a weakness for Bowie. I was doing that shot because it's one that I had practiced over and over and over and tuned down to, hey, from this angle I hit it here, from this angle I hit it here, all these kind of things. And during the match, I was able to hit it quite a few times. I don't remember what our win loss for that day was. I think you were 1 or 2 games above me, but it was a great day of matches between us. And I think it was that shot that I did for my own purposes, not even for who I was playing against, that helped me get some wins. And so what you said there, I wish this video were recording right now with this section in it. I wish
Mm-hmm.
this video existed like 3 or 4 months ago, or maybe even a year ago before we met, because I would have been able to adopt that mindset that, hey, just because that person's weakness is straight shots doesn't mean you practice straight shots for 5 hours a day for a month in order to hit a straight shot, because by the time you get that down and you play them, maybe they defended someone who's already done straight shots, and now it's not a big deal for them. Because like you said, because if it's not a big deal for them when you meet at the table, then your whole strategy is null. It doesn't matter. It's going to go to waste, and you have no backup plan because you spent 5 hours a day for months practicing one shot instead of everything else. So,
Yeah.
really, just really well said, man. So,
Play your
definitely.
game. That's my statement is practice and play your game. It doesn't matter what the other person plays at. If your game is better than theirs, and you'll beat them.
Yeah,
There's a
you know what?
10% chance that luck is going to run into it and you might lose. But if you're a better player, you probably will win 90% of the time.
I'm starting to feel like offensive is the only tried and true play style here. Is
I
there?
disagree. I disagree as well.
So what is yours? Is yours going to be hybrid
It's
or
going to be hybrid. It's got to be hybrid. It's going to be like if I had to put percentages on it, 70, 20, 10, right? 70% of the time, people who are hybrids are probably going to win. Now, I'm talking about at a very high level, right?
Right.
If you're saying like there's 3 play styles,
What
hybrid,
might be more?
offense,
That's just what I
defense.
wrote
Yeah,
down.
there could be more, but hybrid fits all the other molds, right? You're either
Correct.
the 3 play styles that we put on right now is all offense, all defense, and hybrid. Hybrid can fill the other 10, 20 spots or whatever. The percentages can be whatever, right? Um, the hybrid player is always on a higher level going to be a better player than everybody else. If you're talking about all aggressive or all defense, I would say 70% of the time, the hybrid player will win, 20% of the time, all aggressive, and then in maybe 10% of the time, all defensive. Um,
Okay, so real quick on that note, because I'm going to agree with you, I'm going to say your play style to be successful as a competitive player needs to be hybrid. Needs to be. You have to feel confident in defense, in offensive. You have to be able to see the game and understand what your opponent's doing to you to get points and how to stop it going forward and then how to score on them. Has to be hybrid. I agree with that. Out of a hybrid stance, if someone were to say, "Oh, I'm a hybrid player. This is my strength. This is kind of my weakness of the play styles." What would you say is the most important skill set within a hybrid play
mm,
style to focus on, and which one could you get away with saying is kind of my weakness?
okay, so now we're talking. Now we're talking really good question, which is between the hybrid, is the better player the one that leans towards aggressive or the one that leans
Mm-hmm.
towards defensive? Um, my opinion is that uh, this is a biased opinion, but this is going to be towards on a percentage basis more on the aggressive side. So I would say maybe something like 60-40, but let's
Mm,
just say the other component and variable that we're not talking about right now is emotional state, right? Your mental state. So if you're
you're right
playing
one.
somebody that is highly emotional and does not have the mental patience to play a long rally, then it might make sense to shift to maybe a 60-40 on the defensive side. Because if you can hold out and play strong defense, then they're going to end up just losing complete focus and getting really frustrated. That's like my viewpoint or opinion on it, which is there gets to a point where you have to. It all depends on the other side. If they're extremely aggressive and you are typically a 60-40 player on the aggressive side, but you're noticing that this person's playing really aggressive, you might just switch that up to being 60% defensive and then figuring out that I'm going to just be a lot more mentally patient
Mhm.
and also guard my goal, and that they're going to end up just breaking down mentally where I'm going to be able to outlast them on this rally.
Yeah, it's for people for people who play Klask a lot and play it at a competitive level, even if it's just at home with your best friend, but you play like mentally you have stakes. Like maybe you don't have $100 on the line, or hey, you buy the next round on the line, but you have the mental bragging rights on the game. When you play that kind of competitive Klask, emotions and mental states play an impressive role in how the game is dictated. Um, if you're playing incredibly nervous, it's going to hurt. In fact, one of the things that I've noticed in researching matches, um, and eventually we'll do like a kind of like stats data slash episode eventually, but it's all numbers and it's going to be boring for a lot of people. But I have stacks of paper with all of the matches of the world championships, and I've broken down like, hey, over 75% of points in the 2019 World Championship were scored on goals, and only 13% were biscuit points. I'm sure there's different influences in those, but I've broken that down, right? So one of the things I've noticed in kind of analyzing some of these games is a lot of players, when they get at like 5 points, all of a sudden give up 3 or 4 points to their opponent or lose. Sometimes they just straight up lose. And it's this like the emotion of the match or the game plays a role in that. You start to be like, oh, I only need one more point. I can win this. Or, oh my gosh, I'm going to win this. Now I'm all nervous. Whatever it might be, the emotional state of the match is incredibly important to your play style. For instance, once you're at 5 points, I think one of the things I've noticed is the opponent gets more aggressive themselves, because they're like, holy smokes, one more point and I lose. I need to do something. So they become more aggressive, and then that person with 5 points all of a sudden is like not ready for this aggressive play style because it's not how the match had been taking place until that moment. And that's usually how I think 3 or 4 points results in for the other person is they're like, oh, I can't switch like this. And I think being able to switch is very important. And so I'm glad you mentioned that. And I'm telling it's crazy. I tend to lean on if you're a hybrid player, which if you're a competitive class player playing at a decent competitive level, I think you need to be hybrid. I think you need to be a hybrid player at this point. You need to be able to know when your opponent is being extra aggressive during that position in the game or match, and be able to switch to a defensive type thing where you're going to wait for a mistake or wait for an opportunity to get a great hit, but not allow that ball to get into the goal. I've had several matches where I will be aggressive, but my accuracy is not matching my ambition. And I think it's important for a player to know that, to know, hey, for whatever reason, the crowd, the opponent, the too much coffee or too little coffee in the morning, for whatever reason, this hit that I'm usually incredibly good at is just not hitting. They're not blocking it, but I'm not making it. They're not blocking it because I'm not making it, right? I think when you're able to understand that, when you're like, hey, it doesn't matter if I'm being aggressive because my accuracy is just complete crap right now. I think you have to be a hybrid player to understand it and then move to a different strategy like a defensive one, which those specific matches I'm talking about, I pride myself on my accuracy for hits. I practice it a lot. I do my best to make sure I can translate my practice into matches. That's probably my single biggest focus as a player. So I pride myself on that. In a match where my accuracy doesn't hit, it mentally affects me. And then specifically if that is compounded with my opponent being able to hit an incredible shot that I can't block, like let's say they're doing a left wall bank really fast that I can't get to for whatever reason, and I can't make that adjustment, it probably is one of the most devastating things for me. And as a player from like 6 months ago, it would destroy me probably. Like, oh, I don't even want to win because I can't stop this, right? Now, fortunately, I've learned from those experiences, and I have, grown from them to understand like, hey, if my accuracy is crap, then I need to focus on defensive maneuvers and try to get a shot when it comes available, opposed to being aggressive and not getting anything out of it. So, again, I jumped on my soapbox there to say that I agree with you. Maybe I'll do that next time. I'll just say I agree with you and then move on. So actually, you mentioned it a little earlier, and I said at the very beginning of this episode that we're going to save the most important tip for the end of this conversation of play styles, and I think it's time to reveal what that is, even though it's been said. And that's simply play your game. You said it, and it's because you said it because it's important. Don't change your play style or edit what you know to work just because of your opponent or the feeling of the place you're at. Let's say you're playing and an attractive person that you're really attracted to is nearby, and you're like, ooh, I like them. I'm going to try to do some cool trick shots to like impress them or whatever. Now, Klask isn't there yet. Don't try to impress any girls or guys with your Klask skills. Probably isn't going to get you a date. But let's say it was, right? Don't try to hit some cool looking shots just because of someone in the crowd that you're trying to impress. Play your game. If you want to win and you want to put yourself in the position for the best chance to win, just play your game. Be mindful of what your opponent is doing. Block what you know they're going to try to do, but play your game. If you're really, really good at straight shots or that's where you're comfortable, then do that. Even if they're blocking them, do it because eventually you're going to miss one. Don't try to hit left wall banks if you never practiced a left wall bank. Other than to throw your opponent off for a minute or two, but don't try it all day because eventually it's not going to work and you're going to lose. So play your game, regardless of what that is. Play it, perfect it, bring it to the table because your opponent, if they're really competitive and really good, they're going to play their game. And you just have to make sure yours is better. And, maybe pray to the Klask gods. Maybe. But
Yeah.
Dear Mikkel, please, if you could, just let me win this one match. I consider him the Klask god, so.
Yeah, he might be controlling the games. FYI, can I add a little tidbit in here? I thought I was going to mention it, and I totally forgot. Do you know why toilet paper is such a hot commodity during this coronavirus
Do I know why?
epidemic? Yeah, do you know why?
Well, I think it's because of the hysteria of media as far as people saying, hey, everyone's buying it, so everyone else went and bought it and then bought too much of it. And I think it's just this idea of there not being any, so we must get some even if we don't need it. And I think that kind of rolled to where it's currently at because I don't think the supply was an issue.
You're right.
I don't think there's a shop somewhere in China that's like, we ran out,
Yeah, but I don't also think it all comes from China.
I don't either. I just used them as a fill in the blank.
But why toilet paper? Because it could have been anything else.
That part is a very good question. Well, I
got an answer for you.
Okay. Well, so here's the thing. From what I noticed, water was hard to find, soup was hard to find, and toilet paper was incredibly hard to find.
Oh, well,
the reason I think it would be toilet paper above anything else is because I think it's the one thing people think of needing to use every day because they can't fathom the fact food wouldn't be available. Maybe. I don't know. What's the answer? I'm actually very interested in knowing.
This isn't backed by any type of stat, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my understanding is that the reason why toilet paper has been such a difficult thing to retrieve today and why it was so short a month ago, and I mean still now, but it's showing up, is the fact that during the coronavirus pandemic in China, a lot of people on social media in China said that they wish they would have collected toilet paper because they ran out. I mean, and it makes sense, right? I don't know if you noticed, but how often are you using paper towels now versus before all of this?
I mean, at home, not very different. At work, way more. Way, way, way more.
So, yeah, I mean, just think about that, right? Like now for the people who are at home quarantined, which is a lot of people, or unemployed because our unemployment rates are huge right now.
Unbelievable.
They're using paper towels to wipe everything down, and they're just using an excessive amount more than they ever did. Same thing with toilet paper. We're not at work to go to the bathroom anymore, which is a majority of the time when we go to the bathroom. So now we're at home, we're going to the bathroom more, we're using paper towels, we're using toilet paper, and all of a sudden the supply, right, the supply that we got from Costco that lasted us 6 months, all of a sudden doesn't work anymore. It's not the time that we thought it was. Now you had people in China who are like, I wish I would have stocked up on more toilet paper and paper towels because I use it a lot more because we're quarantined. I don't have anywhere to go, so I'm just at home all day eating and shitting.
Yep. Well, yeah. No, I think you're onto something there because that sounds like it would fit the bill. I never considered it, but you're right. Absolutely right, I think. So I think that all compounded to where we currently sit as far as supply goes.
And I feel like it's a lot of it's true for the fact that I thought I had a lot of toilet paper enough to last the 2 weeks that we thought was the quarantine, and now it keeps on getting extended and extended, and then all of a sudden your supply that you thought was enough all of a sudden starts seeming really short, where you're just like, okay, I think I might have 3 weeks left. I better go out and get more. And then the moment that you see toilet paper, you're just like, maybe I'll just get an extra pack. And
Absolutely.
then that.
Dude, I'm in that boat right now. I bought a ton on Amazon for like, the party and just to have. And now I'm like, maybe this isn't enough. Maybe I need to buy some at some point at this, You're definitely onto something there.
Hey, I got you.
Accurate.
You just drive down to my house, man. I got you. I told you I got a commercial supply.
You're one of those commercial roles, bro.
Hey, it's not gonna fit. It's not gonna fit on your holder, but you just have to do the hand. You just have to do the hand wrap thing.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, these are unprecedented times right now. I think you can settle for the hand wrap if need be.
Yeah, there you go. Or the 3 seashells. What do you know about that?
The 3 seashells?
Yeah.
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
Oh. How old are you?
Apparently not old enough to know what that is.
Seriously, how old are you?
31.
Okay, we're like almost the same age. How do you not know the 3 seashells?
I don't know. It's never come up my whole life. My whole life.
Everybody that knows about the 3 seashells is literally laughing out loud right now at this moment that you don't know what the 3 seashells.
Obviously. I don't blame them. If I knew, I would laugh at me too. I don't know what it is.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna.
It sounds like something you learn in
I'm
grade
not even
school.
gonna say it. I'm not even gonna say it. You can look it up later. Our viewers can look it up later.
You're gonna make me Google it?
Yeah, you can Google it.
Oh man, I feel like if I Google this, they're gonna block me. Like you're not old enough to Google. The 3 seashells. Ugh. So is that like a kid's story? Sounds like a kid's story. If it's not, I'm gonna write a children's book tonight called The 3 Seashells.
Yeah, well, you're gonna look it up, and everybody else that doesn't know what I'm talking about is also going to look it up.
Well, it sounds like no one should have to look it up because everyone should know what it is. I don't. Right after this episode's done recording, I'm gonna text like 30 people and be like, "Do you know what the 3 seashells?" I'm gonna get some numbers here.
Actually, that's a great experiment, because if you're in your 30s, I would say that if everybody you text are in their 30s, that 70% of the people are gonna know what I'm talking about.
All right,
that's a crazy stat I'm throwing out there, but I would say probably 70%.
We're gonna find out. I'm putting this to the test. Twitter poll to come.
Dude, just post it on your Facebook.
For sure.
Somebody just told me if I run out, just post this on your Facebook. Somebody just told me if I run out of toilet paper that I should just use the 3 seashells. I don't know what that is. Do you? See what kind of responses do you get?
This sounds uncomfortable.
No, just do it. Just do it. Nike. Just do it.
Ooh. Did Nike officially sponsor us? Finally, they answered.
That I would be in a bigger house if Nike sponsored me.
Same here. Well, this is a great time to tell everyone. If you own a company and want to sponsor us, we're open to opportunity. I don't always have to drink a Mattress Porter. Maybe I can drink your brewery's porter.
Now we're talking.
This quarantine's great. It's putting us in a great social position,
Nobody's got nothing else better to do but listen to 2 people who play Klask.
Oh man, I believe it. And for those who think they have something better to do, obviously need to take more time to realize they're on the wrong train. They need to get on our tracks, Ooh, hey, you know what this reminds me of? Nearing the end of an episode.
Is it? How long has it been?
It's been a minute.
Oh, it's an hour and a half.
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't been watching the TV behind you the whole time, even though Tiger King is very captivating, so it's hard not to watch it. I know at least one full episode has taken place. At least.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, so
Oh
I was
dude,
just
teacup
looking.
teacup is getting drunk. He hasn't even had 2 drinks yet.
Yeah, well, I've had. Oh, you're right. There's a little left. Now, now I've had 2 drinks. But no, what I was going to say is, on this specific episode, when you post it, you can put in the comments below. It's also a way to torrent watch an episode of Tiger King.
Who doesn't have Netflix?
Someone who needs to be funded by a GoFundMe. Because everyone should have Netflix. And
I
even
would
that,
say
they probably
if
have
you
it
don't have
because they
Netflix, they'll have a friend that they're sharing the password and username from.
exactly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my um, mother and father-in-law use my Netflix account at their house. I'm pretty sure my in-laws use it. Like they've taken my account, and one of my brothers and one of my friends have it. Netflix, please do not cancel my subscription because I said that. It was a
Hey
joke.
man, hey, if we can get Netflix's attention on this episode,
Netflix sponsor us, please.
and I was joking about who doesn't have Netflix. I know that there's probably tons of people out there that don't
Yeah,
have Netflix, or don't have a means to borrow it from somebody.
yeah.
So
Let me know.
if
I'll
I
give you my
offended
account.
you, I apologize. But
Yeah,
I would say
yeah.
most people probably do for the most part.
I think so, and I hope everyone knows when any statement we ever make on here is mostly in good fun. So hopefully no one ever takes us so seriously that they lose their mind. And if they do, um, we should become pen pals. It's probably a great conversation. so so this might be my favorite episode, Bowie. This is a lot of fun. This is a good time. um, so to segue from all of that into our normal routine for ending an episode, we talk about one question, 2 answers, right? Now we've been out of sorts for like the last month with the um, kind of lifestyle changes with the coronavirus and then everything that kind of happened right before then. So we have not kept up on social media as much. So there might be questions out there that we have not seen yet. And if that's the case, apologies. Um, so I kind of picked one. We kind of discussed it and picked one at somewhat random for one question, 2 answers. And it's not really a question, but a challenge. And that challenge came from Klask Italia, which is fun. It's funny as, I guess you would consider me to be a somewhat ordinary, typical American because every time I say Klask Italia, I want to go Klask Italia, and I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure you don't have to do any of this or say Italia, but I just want to every time, and it bugs me because I'm like I don't want to do it, but I do it anyway. Um, so I'm trying my hardest to just say Klask Italia, specifically the Sharks. I love that they're the Sharks. I think it's very befitting for them. They seem to play a lot, very aggressive, like what I imagine a Shark would be if they played Klask. So they're some of my favorite people in the Klask community. But anyway, Klask Italia came out recently with they call it, I think, a quarantine challenge. And they essentially have Filippo Ballin. I think he prefers to go by the name for Klask as just Ball In, which is a pretty dope nickname. So I like Teacup because obviously I'm Teacup. Which, by the way, guys, I do have my teacup. It's empty because I wanted to shout out my matchless, pint glass, but I brought my teacup just in case. So, but so I do like the name Teacup, but Ballin is a great classic nickname. The only, I also like that a good friend of mine and a fellow competitor, Cool Hand Lenny. Cool Hand, I think, is a pretty fun classic nickname. Very classic oriented nickname, anyhow. But anyway, Ballin posted a video on Klask Italia doing a kind of a strategic shot, a trick shot. I guess in the world of competitive sport, it'd be considered a trick shot. It's a very specific ball control maneuver, um, kind of lightly tap the ball away from the goal and then use biscuit manipulation to hit that biscuit aggressively at the ball, and you change the course of the ball into the goal. It's a fun video to watch. If you are not a competitive Klask player, it might kind of blow your mind and make you go, holy smokes, this is the level I need to be at. If you are a competitive Klask player, you probably look at it and go, oh, that's an awesome shot. I'm going to try it out. Probably can't ever use it in a match, but it's a great shot. Maybe if you use it in a match successfully, then that's incredible. I don't know how well it will work, but maybe it works brilliantly, right? Anyway, it's a great video. Maybe we'll try to link it below. It's on their Facebook though, so I don't know how that works. If that'll work very well, but it's on their Facebook at Klask Italy, I believe is their Facebook handle. Go to it, watch the video, ball in. Doing this little trick shot challenges everyone. They call it the quarantine challenge. I've tried it. I've been successful a few times. I've been unsuccessful many times. I have not recorded it yet. I need to, just so I can shout out to Ballin and be like, dude, I got this. With that said, Bowie, I saw in the comments below their video, you have done the shot on video. So my answer is, hey, I'm getting back to you soon. I'm going to do the shot on video. And it'll be cool. So that's one of two answers.
Yeah. So the shot itself was unique for the fact that the ball was set up on the furthest left biscuit, down to the right side, and then you draw the biscuit back for you to be able to hit the ball into the goal. I felt like in my game and in most games, people aren't drawing the biscuit like that. That felt like an accident almost. Whereas you're either circling to draw the biscuit,
doing like kind of like a swing, right? Yeah,
right.
Like a slingshot.
I do feel like that's a very risky move to do straight draw back, depending on how new the biscuit is. Because if it's brand new, it is super sticky. I can tell you that because I tried it with the straight draw, and then maybe it's the fact that I couldn't do it, but I also felt like the biscuits I had are super sticky, super risky. I would never do it like that. I would either circle, side swipe to draw the biscuit in, or what I think is also a very difficult shot for a lot of people is hitting the biscuit off the line.
Yeah.
So I chose to do, which I think is more of a realistic shot, which is the ball on the other side of the court, hit the biscuit off the line into the goal. I feel like that takes on two challenges, which is being able to even hit biscuits off the line, and then hitting biscuit towards hitting the biscuit into the ball to hit towards the goal. Now I can tell you when I was recording it probably took me like 20 times to actually get the shot in. It took me quite a while. I mean, I was setting the shot up, so it's not easy to do that every single time. I mean,
right.
It takes a lot. So yeah, I had to take quite a few shots to get that actual shot in. I've done it in games before, but it wasn't in that exact shot. It's like the ball's there's biscuits in your court, and you're just flicking them over, to the other opponent, and then it happens to hit the ball into the goal. That happens. But yeah, I mean, it is a difficult shot. Like, I would put money down on somebody that could do that shot in one run, right? Like,
easy.
Yeah, I would put down some money just to be like, oh, if you could do this shot, I'll put some good money down just to see it the one time. It's a hard shot.
Yeah, you get that shot first try. I don't care. You take my money, man. Good for you.
It's a hard shot. It is a hard shot.
Yeah, it's definitely a shot that shows. And I think that's what's so great about that shot and the challenge in general is you may never use that shot in a game, not on purpose. I think it does happen in chaos from time to time, but I don't think it's ever that planned. And if it is planned, good for you. I don't think you'd ever do this exact shot, especially with the pull away of the biscuit like you were explaining. I just don't think it's realistic for in game all the time. Maybe there's a moment, but not consistently. Um, but what it does present is this great showmanship of skill to manipulate the ball the way that you need to get it to go down the line, the way that it has to for the shot to work in order to pull the biscuit or shoot it off the line with not only success but with accuracy, and then to do it at the right timing and um, pressure of the hit in order for it to hit that ball perfectly and then to angle the ball into the goal, I think is a great showmanship of skill. So even though it may never be a shot that you would necessarily see in a match, it makes for an incredible video, an incredible showmanship of that skill level of a competitive Klask player. Because kind of like in the game of pool or billiards, you don't always see, like, there's a ton of people in that sport that make a living off of doing trick shots, and they're super cool and fascinating to watch. And I don't even really play pool to know the difficulty of the shot, but it looks great, and I understand that it takes an intense amount of skill. And I think that's what a shot like the one in the quarantine challenge shows, is like that is a skilled shot that takes practice. It takes understanding of the game on a higher level. Even the shot that you left in the comments below, even though it's a little bit different, it still presents and offers this great showmanship of skill. And hopefully when I record mine, maybe even tonight after this, maybe I'll record it and post it tonight. It will show that a talented player has these skills available to them to make a shot or duplicate a shot in some way or another. I just think it's really great. And the fact that you did it and posted it so quick, even though it took like 20 tries or what have you, was awesome. I thought it was great to watch. And I haven't even seen an update on that. I wonder if anyone else has posted. Have you noticed if anyone's posted
I
it other
haven't
than
I
you?
haven't seen any. I would get updates on it because my post is on there.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Especially with the majority of the world in lockdown, with a Klask board as a competitive player, I'm kind of sad more people aren't posting that, or at least trying. Maybe they're trying it and can't do it. Who knows? Um, with that said, though, Class Italia, if any of you guys in that team are listening, man, thank you for being such a huge influence on the community. That's what we're trying to do here with Klask Pro, and I think we're being decently successful. But what you guys do with Klask Italia is incredible work, and we really appreciate it as um, competitive Klask players ourselves. This is a great one question, two answers. And guys, listening, if you have a question for us, hit us up on social media, send us a message. You can do that on any of our social sites. You can even do at Teacup, a Klask Teacup, and send me a message, and I'll get it to Bowie, what have you. Either way, or even leave a comment below this video, and we will see it, and we will get that question answered in the next video or a future video.
Yeah,
with
and heck,
two answers.
why don't we just open it up and say, if you'd like to be on the show, come
Mhm.
join us. We can
Definitely.
get anybody in the world on
Yep.
this show because of our conferencing system. As long as you have a webcam on your laptop or computer, we can do it.
Yeah.
So let's get people on here.
Yeah, I'm glad you plugged that. So yeah, for sure. If you want to get on the show, let us know. I know we've been talking to a few people, trying to get those scheduled. We have an upcoming one that's somewhat scheduled, but unfortunately got pushed back because of the coronavirus stuff. So we're gonna have to reschedule, but that'll be an exciting interview, and topic, I think. So yeah, really great plug on that. We should get more people involved. Join us on the show.
Yeah.
Unless you don't like us and are going to make fun of us the whole time, like three seashells, and don't try to join at all. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's okay. We can hold our own.
Yeah, I get one joke a day. That was it. Um, well, Bowie, so you have anything else until episode 7?
I don't think so, man. I'm gonna be here with my family,
The
my
family?
toilet paper.
Hey, don't tell too many people. They might try to find out where you live and, take it.
I also bought 2,000 extra rounds of ammo.
Good move. It's really funny. Um, I've never taken personal interest in gun ownership before. Um, my dad specifically is a huge gun advocate. He owns several and enjoys the whole world of guns and such. And I've never been against it. I'm not like, oh, Dad, you need to change your lifestyle. Like, I don't care, but I've never personally been interested until recently.
Yeah, it's really funny, is that we live in a very liberal area, state,
Hmm. Very much.
and the left side, the liberals, are starting to feel, yeah, I might get some backlash on this, starting to feel a little different about owning some type of gun or protection for the home and for their family during a time of crisis.
Yep.
Um, which has been the right side, kind of more conservative conversation of the amendments that we've put in place for a very long time. Um, as some people might know, I am a huge competitive shooter. I was in law enforcement many, 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 many years ago. So I'm a huge gun enthusiast with many, many weapons at my house and a lot of ammo. And, I could totally be on completely different show on shooting techniques and all the fun that you can have with guns.
Yeah, maybe we can do a separate episode called Bowie Wick.
I got the same gun he has in the movie.
John Bowie? I don't know. Anyway, no. So here's the weird thing about the timing of everything is like, so I was talking to my dad and my one of my uncles. He was in the military, majority of his life, and both are very much into into gun ownership and practicing their craft and all of that. And it was interesting because I started to open up this conversation with them, and both of them had said, "Oh, it took a virus to open your eyes, son." Whatever my dad said, right? And not funny thing, but the fact of that though was it wasn't even the coronavirus or what could potentially happen with like hoard, people hoarding things or attacking the house to get things. It was, or looters, if you will. It was actually the incident that happened with my car, getting the window smashed and everything being broken out. It was that moment that made me think perhaps I should become um, an owner of a firearm. And the reason why is because I won't go too deep into it, but essentially I was parked in a secure garage of a hotel, and I got into it, and you have to take an elevator from the lobby down into the parking garage in order to access the vehicle. And I rode that elevator down by myself, and I was going to just put some shopping bags of stuff that I just bought into the car because I had already checked out of the hotel and everything. So I was like, oh, instead of the lobby holding on to them, I'll just put them in the car in this secure garage. So in my mind, it was totally a good idea. What occurred to me later on was, by the way, the the theft happened within an hour and 40-minute window because I was at my car, went away for about an hour and 40 minutes, and came back. So I know there's a pretty strict time that it had happened. So it could have happened minutes before I showed up, and that's actually what made me decide I wanted to get into possibly gun ownership. Was if I had rode that elevator down and went to my car, which was just like 20 steps away from the elevator, right in front of the elevator actually, and that person was there breaking the window the moment that I had walked over, if that had happened, especially if they were armed of either knife or gun, what have you, I would have had nothing myself to defend and or potentially be the aggressor, saying like, get away from my car and don't take my stuff that I adored, like don't do that. So it occurred to me in that, looking back at that potential scene, I should possibly become a gun owner, just so if this moment ever were to reoccur, I would be prepared for it to some extent, because it felt pretty bad, to be honest. Felt pretty bad to feel like I was going to be very unprepared and or unable to do anything in that moment if it had happened that way. I guess in a sense it worked out that the person had already got away with all my stuff and gone from the scene by the time I got there, so there was no confrontation. But that's what sparked my interest in the whole coronavirus thing came up. And then I live in a pretty far out area. Like if people were to start looting homeowners at random, I would probably be pretty late in their game plan because I'm pretty far out from anything. But you're right, though. If it ever happened currently, well, not at this exact moment because I've taken precautions, but prior to like 2 weeks ago, I would be incredibly unprepared for intruders of that nature. And I think the world is going to change pretty drastically over the next few months, which could lead to something like that. The hope is it doesn't, right? Like that's the hope. But the unfortunate truth is it potentially could happen, and I can't even say that I'd be surprised if it did happen, to where if people did start to try to loot or break into homes and cause some pretty hairy situations. So that was a lot of words to again say I agree with you, Bowie.
Chris, just come over to my house, man. I got plenty of ammo, plenty of weapons. I've got MREs. I'm like a mini prepper, man. I got MREs. I've got water and food supply for a very long time.
You don't have to lie. You could just say you want to play Klask. It's fine.
We could do that too, man.
It's enough for me. No, you're right though. We actually should post video, discuss when we can come hang out, because trust me, I need to do something. I'll sanitize. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'll spray you down, and I got masks too. I'll spray you down.
Suit.
Yeah, I got masks. We can do it right.
That's right. Oh man, one of our suppliers in China for my company actually sent us a pretty good amount, like a half truckload of masks. So that's on the DL, people. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, I mean, you should be
we got hooked up.
Yeah, apparently. That's a hot commodity right now.
It is. We don't want to price gouge, and to prevent price gouging, we're just keeping them for ourselves, for the company, not me specifically. I mean, I took a box, but I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Oh man, I'm going to get in trouble now.
Yeah, this show's over. This show is completely done. There is public backlash happening.
Right. They're going to be like, these guys have all the toilet paper, all the mask. They're not social distancing.
They're just sitting there playing Klask on rolls of toilet paper.
On rolls of toilet paper. I will bet you one roll of toilet paper during our next match, Bowie.
That is going to be my toilet paper.
You would hope, but no way. Nope, no way. Can't happen.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to our nearly 2-hour episode.
Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed it.
If they last that long, I'll be able to tell on the YouTube analytics. Again, thank you so much for listening. We will be back on, and we will have other topics. We're encouraging everybody to come and join us, specifically during this time in quarantine when you have nothing to do. We'd love to we can have 9 faces on here talking about Klask if we chose to do so. Otherwise, Again, thank you for listening to us. This is Klask Pro. Have a good night.
Yep. Stay safe. Wash your hands.